Okay. Yeah. This is uh WNDC NDC. Where's my earbuds? WNDC NDC stands for we in the crib and you ain't NDC. And yeah, this is just another one of those posts, or is it? Um yeah, I'm still trying to get all set up or figure out how all this is gonna work. Hopefully I get lucky and you get audio and visual. Sure be nice if there was somebody out there that was capable of giving me a shout out, at least enough so I know what may possibly be.
How I can thank you all enough. You've all been such. No need to get a turn on you.
Move! No! Turn you into a tsetse fly with only one teeth.
I'm jumping.
So I want to start this off by
servant gives you service with a smile.
No.
Talking about PTSD, post-traumatic slave syndrome, or post-traumatic stress syndrome,
How I can thank you all
whichever
enough.
way you want to run
You've
with
all been
this.
such true friends. I take my hat off to you.
Because
if I had one, how I can thank you. How I can thank you all enough.
Because a lot of what is really going on in my head is a lot more deeper than what some people might in fact yeah, I'm multitasking like a mofo. I'm a veteran, and I just received my upgrade of my discharge from 1985. To an honorable status just last year. That's from 85 to now. I live my life under the understanding that even as a veteran, I have no veterans benefits, no rights, no anything of the nature, just due to the mere fact of how everything turned out at that particular time. During that particular era, the whole concept of PTSD was non-existent. I mean, depression in itself was not recognized as an illness in the military until just a year or two ago, literally. And yet, not that would have to be the total excuse, but it's an excuse for a lot more people who are now living with certain conditions and whatnot that are included into many of the other traumatic things that most people deal with on a day-to-day basis without any formal therapy of sorts or any heads up of any form to as to how you manage your everyday life in a manner that doesn't allow you to excuse yourself and your sanity on any given day. And as we can see in a lot of the news and whatnot, there's lots of people who opt out of just being able to consider, you know what, I'm going out in my uh, typical excuse for sanity. So, and I am trying not trying to necessarily. I'm not trying to necessarily um give off any impression that that's what's going on with me. Actually, right now I'm multitasking. I'm trying to, I need to get better at doing these little podcasts because if I just really honestly sat back and wrote down a format and really structured this well, this would be not so difficult to get through for many people who might have clicked on the um, title or whatnot. But once again, this is WNDC, NDC, and we in the crib and you ain't NDC here. Uh, and yeah. Uh, you know, uh yeah, I'm really doing a bad job at focusing, which is another one of those issues with this whole thing, this whole subject. And I have to admit that one of the things that I do enjoy about the career that I live is that on many occasions, as long as I am busy, and for busy for me is actually making moments, for that other people, literally save up to get out and do by way of how our industry is structured. So yeah, that's still it. So going out and working concerts and things of that nature, even though I'm in the midst of masses, I'm at peace being purposeful in a lot of what I do, and that in itself is actually mentioned in some of the manners into which you can deal with many of these triggers and instincts that come with this whole PTSD ish kind of mentality. So when I'm devoid of those kind of distractions or whatnot, then I've got way too much more extra time on my hands or in my head, and less motivation with a lot of those things because uh, this condition also leaves you in a deeper state of not necessarily out isolation more than introvertedness. Uh, and it rather comes in bouts, or it really is that, and for me, the reality is it's been a long time with me dealing with these things without having an idea what exactly it was, what caused it, and how to deal with it in my life. And yet I've lived long enough to at least not have as many of the social scars as some have had, trying to manage. Thank goodness, thank God. But I noticed that in a lot of times, in a lot of cases, some of this comes by way of having more of a purposeful kind of existence, things in your life. That's why being a provider, being a good friend, being a resource in your industry, being of service or whatnot is really useful. And you getting out of your own personal head of things that put you in certain spaces that can be described in the manner of trauma or whatnot. And we all have them. And I really sometimes think that a lot of us need to desensitize ourselves to the discomfort of these triggers and whatnot, and start really concentrating more on certain habits or methods of self-care that need to be applied for many people on their own, in their own personal manner, but realize that you know, it doesn't require you to go into a state of depression, insecurity, guilt, and all this other stuff like that. No, I've never felt the desire of checking out early, or wow, what was me, or this, that, and the other. It just was. It's like living all of these things and it being in a state of racism of sorts. Okay. Uh, excuse me. My military issues came about due to the mere fact that the infractions that I was being accused of were actually being created due to this condition into which was not defined enough to be able to, say, hey, this is, and yet I remember having this law firm, this major law firm, go pro bono, and trying to help me get my discharge upgrade because 1985, as I agreed upon, detaching myself from the Marine Corps, the agreement was that I should basically be rewarded the general under honorable stances, and I should be left to at least be able to benefit from the time into which I've devoted to the military, and without any of the stigmas that would affect me and my clearance or stature or whatnot. Instead, I found the last little kiss of they ass that I got from the people who I really had this conflict with was finding out that they had shifted my paperwork in a manner where here I am thinking I'm general under honorable, and I end up other than honorable and incapable of actually being able to do anything about it, because up until a few years ago, it was impossible for anyone to basically be able to utilize any form of argumentation at all over any form of mental distress being the reason why these acts of insurrection, or whatever they would rather call it, were worthy of my discharge of sorts, and yet to be left upon my own resources for life afterwards or whatnot is kind of distressing when you think about the amount of people who are all out there right now who have similar issues, but more extreme deficits in the ability of being able to find some form of therapy. How do we divest? How do we get back into this regular world when the same things that we're suffering from, other people are suffering from in their own manner in the real world without the military equation involved? And yet this PTSD is no more of an issue than post-traumatic slave syndrome, or the post-traumatic syndromes that the Jewish people even admit that has occurred due to the Holocaust, and that traumatic thing, or how people of traumatic backgrounds have these same kind of things, the way that people who are bullied, people who basically are, people who need people. And yet, what really makes minds a little more awkward is just the mere fact that, yes, race does play a great deal in a lot of this, because as a dominant black man, it's always been par to the reality that you just suck it up and stop trying to use the race card and this, that, and the other, and just do better, be better. And, big boys don't cry. Big boys don't bitch and moan about. Big boys don't get a pass like so many other people have been allowed to in our genetic structure, just due to the mere fact that your color prescribes even more. See, even so much that they even have cases where people consider that people of color can withstand more pain and therefore prescribe less pain medicine. Not because of the fear of addiction, but because of the expectation that you're black, you can take it. And so I'm not trying to make it all about race or whatnot, but I was watching Michael Che, and this whole little run was kind of cute, and so I'm bastardizing it, because it was there. So
racism is a strange. I don't even know how you could be racist in 2014. We need each other.
2022.
You need us. You need me.
You need people like me.
We make shit cool. Just like we need white people, because you make shit
safe.
And we all need Asian people because they make shit affordable.
Cheap.
So
funny as these things are, they have a certain sense of reality to them that sometimes
that might be prejudice, but I'm prejudiced.
That whole prejudice concept,
covers on books in the first place.
That in itself is like,
I don't care. I went to Tennessee one time. I went down south to do some shows, and sometimes people take you around and show you what to do, right, in the city. So this lady, she's showing me everything to do in Tennessee. She goes, "Hey, Che, I don't want to sound racist or anything. You got to try this chicken restaurant we have. It's amazing."
Yeah.
I was like, "Why would that be racist?" And she goes, "Well, because black people like chicken." It's a very hurtful stereotype for two reasons. One, it's absolutely true.
If you are out there.
Two, who else likes chicken a lot? Everybody would taste it. Why is it only funny when we eat it? I don't know. How did that just become our
I kind of wish that somebody would leave a comment.
Why is that a weird thing that we like chicken? I'm seriously asking. There was a guy that made the news, a professional golfer. He got in trouble because he told Tiger Woods, he said, "I'm going to invite Tiger Woods to my house."
Just because,
some fried chicken.
The structure of this format that I'm in is not really a real time.
I was like, is it? What kind of thoughtful racist finds out your favorite food and then threatens to make it for you? It sounds hospitable.
I find it kind of culturally awkward to express so many things that's going on with my head, because, as a child of this black exploitated era, it itself beds a lot of it. Many people only, just hear and go, yeah. Back in those days, or this, that, the other, you're going, but it's vivid. It's as vivid as the taste of government cheese, freshly sliced off of that stick, and whatever bread is left in the house, that makes that cheese sandwich. It might be the only meal you might find while things are going on in your culture that have no that era where we didn't have TV or cable, or that latchkey was you better lock the door. Not that you even got a spare, but that phone call of the authorities, alerting you that your parents are locked up because they were at a protest for something that we got now. And, or the giggle in your father's voice when, he's like, you must have been crazy to try to join the Marine Corps, and yet he's a veteran too. Army, paratrooper, was a killer. I'm a Marine. I remember the many times that I would express that to a lot of other Marines out there, especially the straight-laced ones that are still about that straight and narrow, that would look back and be like, man, fucking hippie Marine with PTSD. And try to fill out this paperwork in a manner where if there was anything that I could basically express as to what my reasons are for filing for discharge, upgrade, and disability in the VA, would be the reasoning why I was rewarded my discharge back, due to the mere fact that they instated every last infraction that caused my discharge in the first place, were all shining examples of something that existed as something that hadn't been identified yet. Now, people can, when you say you got problems and issues, people listen. Back then, it wasn't no, and it was even worse for people of color, and yet I made it this far. I'm at this pivot in my life where the next step for me is trying not to cause my siblings and younger family to be the procurers of my elderly state, and yet hope that I've earned enough that I can find some security in my social existence in my last days. And yet today is just today, and I still got yet another today to go through, and I think that's why I'm sharing this with a lot of people, because these mental issues are not death sentences, they're life challenges. And as much as I would love to express my progress of doing so, I'm not gonna lie, I struggle with this shit a lot more than some people would probably even think. If I could honestly tell myself to suck it up, buttercup, a whole lot better, I'd probably be better at a lot of things in life that I probably could be doing that I'm not, because sometimes you can't get unstuck from a stuck that starts stuck before any other thing is allowed to be included into what keeps you stuck, when society expects for you to be unstuck and great with them. And yet a lot of things that exist today still are more awkward for a lot of older people who are finding themselves at a time and an era where the things that used to be the excuse as to why you did not do these things no longer exists. I remember when I was younger, living in DC, had this little crush on this little Russian white girl who had a crush on me. And my daddy beat the dog snap out of me with a leather arrow quiver, upon realizing that, first off, not only did I have no business out there trying to doggone be romantic with some white girl, but someone who possibly was related to a Russian consulate made it even more worth the ass whooping that I got, that I took upon myself as believing that that my family would shun my choice in partners and mates of a different race. We'll bring back my white girl. By the time that I realized that that wasn't really what the message was, I was too old to basically start jumping back into the pool and deciding if I want to go down, the level of jungle fever, me Tarzan, you Jane, because I remember my pops getting into my butt about, never really, saw this life you live in, as what we raised you to be. We expected for you to be a professor at some college, married to some Jewish French chick or something. Never knew I had that kind of leeway in life to be able to take that kind of direction. And yet, trying to express that to people who come from a different cultural background is even more difficult as a person of color. And there are those days. And this may be one of mine that I just wanted to get a lot of these things off of me and mines, while I find that this is like a Sting song, sending out an SOS to the world for others who can't state that SOS need as eloquently or not. But I was watching a video on one of the veterans having their PTSD, and they would mention how certain months, certain times would come in. And I guess a lot of that was true enough to the point where, mine was also around the same time too, because I spent the holidays, I went into boot camp of the whole nine, and what we used to call "You Suckers Miss Christmas" tour. And we went in Halloween, and we came out after the New Year. And all the holidays were Marine Corps training days. Yet that night before graduation seemed even more special at the start of what was supposed to be a long career. As such, only to end a couple of years later with me being put into a state that only 85, 95, 2005, 2015, 40, almost 50 years later, I'm sitting here now on the better end of a journey that shouldn't have resulted in so much of what could have been greater in my life had I been afforded many of the benefits I still have yet to be rewarded with to date. And yet trying to still struggle with a state of your own sense of wellness and sanity in these kind of attempts at expressing outwardly your personal perceptions is a new thing. I don't expect for any of this to go trending. I don't expect for anybody to know or care or to pass this on to anyone. I'm just speaking because maybe, just maybe, there's somebody out there that might relate to at least one or two of the little tidbits of whatever muddlings I find myself doing in these broadcasts. Yet WNDC in DC, for me, is a piece of the therapy that is required for me to leave in zeros and ones, just in case someone out there finds this entertaining, amusing, informative, or educational enough to realize that, you know, we're all kind of special in our ways. I think in some kind of ways, a lot of what was, going on with me genetically was ahead of its genetic time. My inner ADDHD and HD was not even prescribed as hyperactivity back in that era. It was overactive brain waves. Let's just see how much he can get. Just tire him out with knowledge and whatever he wants, and just not stop him from being able to just absorb whatever he likes. And yet, my experience in life being forced to return back into a certain level of, look, you only do what you are supposed to do, not what you say. You fit back into this box, and these boxes for our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren will no longer exist. And I'm so thankful for that in 2022, that we are headed in that direction as we evolve into this new age of Aquarius for the ages or whatnot that never existed for humankind back in the days that you and mine's dreamed of only being able to have this much freedom today, to not have anything in the way of our desire to be greater than whom we are expected to be as Americans, no more, no less than anyone else with an ID. And yet, for me, this PTSD is compounded with the post-traumatic slave syndrome, is compounded with so many other things, including just the mere fact that, well, at this age, being alone, not lonely, but alone too often, is only due to the inability of being able to gain the level of companionship that I would more than likely be compatible with enough to be progressive, to be purposeful. And that's not a reason for me to be depressed over, damn it, must suck to be you, when there's so many other people that probably suck more for who they are than what I'm capable of offering in my own. And yet, I hope that at some point or another, something can come of this. If nothing more than me being able to replay what I've left here respectfully, in a manner of being able to at least convincing me that, you know what, you're good enough, you're smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like you. Two. All right. So with all of that, I'm gonna leave y'all with you good. Hey, yeah. Another thing that's really getting me is just that, yeah. I got this colonoscopy thing coming up, and what's really been irking me is just the mere fact that for the first time in me taking these kind of things, I've done them more than once. This particular time, I don't have anyone that, I can truly, state and depend on assisting me in this whole process, because that whole process is not for the weak of heart, let alone having to do it yourself, knowing that, man, your life depends on, not eating, fasting, and cleaning yourself out for a whole 24 hours, no matter what else you got to do, and then be ready to stop everything and then go in and let these people probe you while you're unconscious, and then you get up and walk away and wait to find out what these people found in this video they just took up your butt. And yet, as humans, the most awkward reality is that, you know, we all have a butt. And for some strange reason, you can find the most about people by what goes in and goes out of that environment, that area. Wow. And a lot of that's working with you because you don't know anybody who takes any kind of, test or whatnot. They always sit back and wonder how well they're going to fare. Life ain't really fair. And yet here we are. And it don't help none with this PTSD or this ADDHD or being alone and not lonely and being almost elderly and being me. Just another one of those different people in a world that keeps getting different by the day. But I'm sending each and every one of you positive energy. And if you can find a way of just sliding over my Cash App, anything, nothing says thank you like cash, but Cash App will do. Because Lord knows I could use a few miracles too. But you good?